I never thought much about moments, the small, ordinary things that pass us by every single day. I believed that big changes in life only came from dramatic decisions or life-altering events. But I was wrong. Sometimes everything you think you know about yourself, about love, and about the way the world works can shift with something as simple as one touch. My story begins in a quiet suburban town in Ohio, where the days rolled into one another with a certain predictable rhythm. I was 36, living in a modest two-bedroom home, working a steady job at the local library. My name is Emily Carter, and for years, I convinced myself that I was content with my routine life. I had good friends, I had family nearby, and I had a job that gave me stability. Yet deep inside, there was a part of me that longed for something more, something I couldn't quite define. That longing became clearer on the day I met Daniel Harris. Daniel wasn't the type of man you could ignore. Tall, with dark hair that always seemed to fall just slightly into his blue eyes, he had this quiet strength about him. He wasn't loud or demanding attention, but when he walked into a room, it felt like the air shifted just a little. I first saw him when he came into the library on a rainy Thursday afternoon. He was carrying a stack of books, mostly about architecture and design. I remember the way his hands looked as he placed them on the counter. Steady, sure, but also gentle. It was nothing unusual, nothing remarkable in itself. But when I reached over to take the top book from him, our fingers brushed for the briefest moment. And in that moment, something unexplainable happened. It wasn't dramatic, no lightning bolt or thunder crashing outside. Just a touch. A spark, warm and subtle, coursed through me in a way I hadn't felt in years. I laughed nervously, pulling my hand back quickly, telling myself it was just static electricity from the storm outside. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. His eyes met mine, and for a second, it felt as if he knew it too. Daniel smiled, polite and reserved, thanked me for helping him, and walked away. I should have forgotten about it. After all, people pass through our lives every day. But that night, I couldn't stop thinking about the way that single touch had made me feel alive again. Over the weeks that followed, Daniel became a regular visitor at the library. He wasn't just checking out books. He lingered, asked me about my recommendations, and sometimes stayed to read in the corner until closing time. Slowly, we began to talk more. He told me he had recently moved to town after leaving behind a hectic life in Chicago, hoping to start fresh in a quieter place. He had been an architect for years, but decided he wanted to live differently, away from endless deadlines and stress. I found myself opening up to him too, sharing little pieces of myself that I rarely revealed to others. It wasn't just conversation. It was connection. The kind you don't plan for, the kind you can't manufacture. It grew naturally day by day, until one evening, when I was locking up the library and he offered to walk me home. The air was cool, and the streetlights cast a soft glow on the sidewalks. We walked side by side, and I could feel the warmth radiating from him even though we weren't touching. At my doorstep, there was a pause, a silence filled with something unspoken. And then his hand brushed mine again. This time, he didn't pull away. His fingers laced through mine gently, and that single touch, simple as it was, sent a wave through me that I can only describe as life-changing. It wasn't about romance in that instant. It was about being seen, truly seen, after years of feeling invisible in my own life. I realized then how much I had been yearning for human connection, how much I had built walls around myself without even noticing. One touch had broken through all of that, and I couldn't go back to who I was before. As days turned into weeks, our bond deepened. We spent weekends exploring small cafes, talking about everything from childhood dreams to fears we never told anyone else. He showed me sketches of buildings he wanted to design, simple homes filled with light and space for people to truly live in. I told him about how I always dreamed of writing, even though I never had the courage to finish anything I started. And every time our hands touched, whether by accident or intentionally, that same spark was there, reminding me that life was meant to be felt, not just endured. Of course, life wasn't without complications. Friends started to notice how often I spoke of him, how my eyes lit up when he entered the room. My sister, Jessica, teased me endlessly, saying she hadn't seen me smile that much in years. And yet, with joy came fear. Fear that this was too good to be true. Fear that maybe one day he would decide to leave again, to return to his old life, and I would be left with nothing but memories. But Daniel seemed determined to stay. He told me once, as we sat on a park bench under the fading autumn sun, that he hadn't expected to find someone here who made him want to build a life again. He looked at me in that quiet, serious way of his, and I felt my heart open wider than it ever had before. The moment that changed everything even more came on a snowy evening in December. We were decorating the small Christmas tree in my living room, laughing as we struggled with tangled lights. At one point, I climbed on a chair to hang the last ornament at the top, and I nearly slipped. His arm shot out instinctively, steadying me with his hands at my waist. For a second, the world fell away, and it was just us, close enough to feel each other's breath. That touch, protective and tender, told me more than words ever could. It told me that I wasn't alone anymore, that I was cherished, that I had found someone who saw me as more than just another person passing through his life. From then on, I stopped doubting. I let myself fall into the new rhythm of my days, a rhythm that included him. We cooked together, shared quiet evenings with books and tea, and planned little road trips to nearby towns. We weren't perfect. We argued sometimes, especially when my insecurities got the better of me. But even then, his hand reaching for mine reminded me that love isn't about perfection. It's about presence, about showing up for each other, no matter what. Looking back now, I realize how extraordinary it is that one small touch could change everything. It wasn't just about falling in love. It was about waking up to life itself. About realizing that the smallest gestures, the brush of a hand, the warmth of a smile, the steady presence of someone who cares, can shift the entire course of your journey. I didn't know, when Daniel first placed those books on the counter in front of me, that my world was about to be rewritten. But that's the beauty of life, isn't it? You never know when everything can change. And sometimes it happens not with grand gestures or dramatic moments, but with something as simple, as pure, and as powerful as one touch.